One of the ugliest criminal stories in modern America just took another big step into the open. And it's not because the system suddenly grew a conscience, it's because the law is now forcing it to. Welcome to Why It's Trending Daily. I'm Hank, and this is where I break down the stories that everyone is suddenly Googling, and I explain to you why they matter. So today we're talking about the government's files on Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, and why a federal judge just agreed to unseal grand jury and investigative records that were supposed to stay locked away. So here's the core of it, all right? For more than 20 years, law enforcement has been collecting material on Epstein and Maxwell. Police reports, victim statements, flight logs, financial records, photos and videos from their homes, and at the center of it, secret grand jury transcripts that are normally sealed for good. Now, most of that stayed hidden while Epstein cut sweetheart deals, while Maxwell moved on with her life, and while victims tried to convince anyone in power to actually take them seriously. Then came a new law, the Epstein Files Transparency Act. Congress passed it, Trump signed it, and it tells the Justice Department you have to release Epstein-related records by a specific deadline. You can't hide information just because it might be embarrassing or politically awkward. Now, that law is what sent the DOJ back into court asking judges for permission to unseal records that had been off limits, including the grand jury materials in Maxwell's case. Now, Judge Paul Engelmayer in New York just said yes. He ruled that even though the act doesn't name grand jury materials explicitly, its text still covers them in this case. So he's allowing the release of grand jury transcripts, exhibits, and a huge volume of discovery from Maxwell's 2021 sex trafficking trial. Now, on the surface, that sounds like the moment the internet has been screaming about for years. The files, they're finally coming out. Hooray! Except the judge goes out of his way to warn people what not to expect. He writes that these materials do not identify anyone besides Epstein and Maxwell as having sexual contact with minors. They don't list secret clients, they don't describe some new method of abuse, they don't reveal more crime locations, hidden wealth pipelines, or a conspiracy about how Epstein died. Translation, if you think this batch is going to drop a fresh list of presidents, princes, billionaires, and celebrities, this is probably not that release. Sorry. But that doesn't mean the ruling is boring. It matters because of how we got here and who got ignored in the process. You see, remember, grand jury secrecy exists for a reason. It protects victims and witnesses, it protects ongoing investigations, it stops criminal cases from being tried entirely in the media. Now that's why back in August, Engelmayer and another judge, Richard Berman, said no when the DOJ first tried to unseal these materials. They said the department overstated how much transparency the grand jury records would actually add and downplayed the secrecy rules. Now that Congress has stepped in and carved out an exception for this specific case, the judge's hands are tied on the legal question. But he's still not happy with how DOJ has handled the people at the center of it all. Now, in his new order, he calls out prosecutors for failing to properly notify Epstein and Maxwell's victims before filing requests to unseal. Not once, but more than once. He basically says, you keep talking about transparency and justice, but you're not treating the victims with the level of care that they deserve. So he adds guardrails. He modifies the protective order in Maxwell's case and tells the DOJ they can only release these materials after they thoroughly review them. They redact anything that would identify victims or invade their privacy, and the U.S. Attorney in Manhattan personally certifies to the court that they did that job correctly. Now, this is the tension at the heart of this very story. Survivors and their lawyers spent years pushing for more sunlight. They supported the Transparency Act because they were sick of seeing this case continually being buried. At the same time, they've already watched earlier releases accidentally expose details that let people piece together victims' identities online. So they want the truth out, but they don't want to be on the collateral damage one more time. Meanwhile, in Florida, another judge has ordered unsealing of grand jury material tied to Epstein's old federal probe that ended in the 2008 non-prosecution agreement, the deal that let him avoid serious federal charges in exchange for a light state plea and a joke of